Hello and welcome to another Chainsaw Talk. Today, Phil Pluskota.
Well, hello, Phil. Thanks for being on my channel.
No problem. Nice to be here with you.
Yes. Would you introduce yourself to the single person watching this channel that doesn't know you?
Well, my name is Phil. I run a studio called Sonic Assault Studios out of Florida in the States. I do mostly death metal, grindcore, and like deathcore records. And I'm obsessed with guitar tones. I have a ton of amps and cabinets.
That's true. Okay, and you're very well known for your reamping skills, and that's what I want to talk mostly about. First of all, a rather general approach. What are some do's and don'ts when it comes to reamping, in your opinion?
Well, do's is definitely don't clip your DIs if you want to have the best sounding guitar tones coming through your guitar amps. But most of the time with high gain tones, as long as the guitar is very, very clear in the mid-range and it's not too bloated sounding, you'll be able to dial in tones a lot easier, especially if you are using, chainsaw pedals or any like super, super thick distortions, just so it comes through the mix a lot better. And then edit well. If you're going to edit your guitars, make sure you crossfade things so there's no clicks and pops in the guitar DIs, because that will come through under a mic.
So you want edited guitars when you do reamping?
Depending on the style of the band, it's better to do that since I'm getting usually the final tone for a record. So if a band is like a straight up grindcore band or like a death metal band, editing isn't required. But if it's like one of like the modern like deathcore bands or like a technical death metal band, if the stuff is not tightly played, a lot of guys will edit the guitars to make them tighter, of course, just so it
of
sounds
course.
professional. But that always sounds better, like if all like the hand noise and whatnot is cut out of the DIs, just so when you're reamping through it, you're not getting all of like the squelches and like hard stops that you usually get when you're playing and recording.
Yeah. Okay, because I think it's kind of a mentality, because some guys say you first reamp and then edit, and some guys say first edit then reamp. That's why I've asked.
Yeah, usually I'll edit before I reamp, but if I've set DIs that aren't edited and they need to be cleaned up after reamping, then I'll just line up the reamps with the DIs and then just edit the DIs with that. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, true. Okay, what's your favorite DI box?
My favorite DI box is my Creation Audio Labs MW1, which is a DI and reamping box all in one. It's a 19-inch rack mount unit. Michael Wagner, who did like Metallica, Slayer, and a bunch of other like bands in the 80s and 90s, he helped design that with Creation Audio Labs.
Yeah, and it's sadly very hard to come by in Europe, actually. I've looked into it, and there is one dealer in the UK, and since UK is not in the EU anymore, European Union, you have to pay taxes and stuff. It's really pricey.
Yeah, because it's already like a $700 piece, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing with all like the custom fees and whatnot, it'd be way more expensive.
Yeah, for here in Germany, you can add 25% on top, basically.
That's awful.
Yeah. So I've actually I'm currently looking to buy a new DI, and now I've ordered the Rupert Neve RNDI.
That's a really good DI.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I own one of those, so I can definitely tell you that it's good. I use this thing all the time.
Ah, okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, this thing works really well for not only guitar DIs, but if you want to capture your head direct, it can take a speaker load well. So you can take direct amp signals as well as you get your DIs.
Yeah, that's awesome. We already talked briefly about this. Basically you edit your guitars first, but what's your general approach when it comes to reamping? For instance, how to choose amps and whatsoever.
Well, I actually have a nice array of the KHE amp switchers. So what I'll do is, depending on the mix that I'm sent, or if it's something that I'm mixing, I'll listen to the vibe of the mix and kind of figure out what type of amps would probably fit well in there. So I'll just usually turn on about 8 to 10 amps and just switch through them until I find a combination of speaker and amp in the room that sounds good before I start putting mics on the cabs.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense, makes total sense. And I guess you use the Creative Labs machine also for reamping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'll use. And then, of course, I'll gain stage how hard the DI is hitting my pedals going in or hitting the input of the amp going in, just so it feels proper.
Yeah, yeah. And there is no wrong or right. When it sounds good, it is good, basically.
Exactly.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it could literally be you clipping the output of the Creation Audio Labs and it sounds good.
Yeah.
Like, it just depends on the material.
Yeah, agree. So you said that you also do mixing, and of course, obvious. So if you're mixing the record where you're reamping, at what stage do you reamp?
Usually I'll reamp towards the end of the mix being completed. So I'll start off with amp sims just to kind of give me like a foundation for like a guitar tone while I'm getting the drums, vocals, and bass to sound awesome. And then once all that's good is when I'll start either reamping the bass first and then I'll reamp the guitars afterwards. Because the whole point is just to make sure that the guitar tone sits in the mix without me having to EQ the shit out of it or do much post-processing after the fact.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, you don't have to fix it, basically.
Exactly. Like you only have to do like a couple small EQ cuts and that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, do you ever reamp with modulation or time-based effects?
I do, and if I do that, it's always through the effects loop. But I use a lot of like the Old Blood Noise Endeavors pedals, Earthquaker pedals, and those usually work the best for me for when I'm doing like time-based stuff.
Okay. And do you reamp bass as well?
Yes. Yeah, I have a old Ampeg V4B that I use for bass reamps.
Ah, okay, that's basically everything you need.
Yeah, because I got a Sans amp and a Dark Glass. If I need any of like those like more like nasty bass tones and modern nasty bass tones, I have everything covered on that.
Yeah, yeah. And what about clean guitars?
Clean guitars, I can either use the V4 as a clean guitar amp as well, or I'll use like the Driftwood clean channel, or any of like the Bogner has a really good clean channel.
Yeah, yeah. So basically every tone that's made out of a string will get reamped.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I do like amp sims for clean tones, but most of the time I like to get like the real speaker movement for clean tones.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because it's a lot more dynamic. It's not as stiff sounding, but if it's like a really eerie clean type sound, then sometimes amp sims work better because it's very stiff.
Okay. So I'm sure it happens a lot that people want you to reamp and ask for a specific piece of gear to use.
Yes.
And how do you approach those wishes? Do you tell them, yeah, I did? Or do you actually do it? What about this?
Yeah, usually what I'll do is if I get hired for a reamping job and someone has a specific setup they want, I'll do that setup. And then I'll also do a setup of something I think is better or a different option so they can A/B to see what sounds better to them. And so I like giving people options when they hire me for reamps just so they're not upset that I didn't use the amp and cab combination they wanted. Yeah, or I use that and then they hear a different sound and they're like, oh, well, this one actually is better than what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah. I agree because reamping is kind of a creative job, but in the end, the artist has to decide, and you can be as creative as possible. If the artist is not satisfied, then you basically done no good job.
Yeah, so usually what I'll do is I'll just do like a little small section of a song that has like the most stuff going on. So like if it has like a lot of like trem picking, chugs, and like open chords like in a small section, I'll do that with like multiple amps just so they can hear what it sounds like in a mix so they can pick the final tone before I reamp like a whole record.
Yeah, that makes sense. So is there any really funny story about reamping you might want to share with us?
Funny stories? Well, there was this one time a band that was, I'm not going to name them, but they sent me an entire full length that all the DIs were summed to mono. So they were copy and pasting a lot of the same riffs. So it would go from sounding stereo to instantly going to mono because they didn't know that you had to track different guitars for each side. So they were just copy and pasting the same performances. So I was reamping and I was like, why is this turning into mono? And then as soon as I looked at the transients, it's like, oh, they copy and paste the riffs left and right.
I actually did this once when we recorded our first record with the predecessor of my current band, Nightbearer. I was just lazy, and then I copied the right guitar to the left. Then I listened to it and said, nope, that's wrong.
Yeah, because it all of a sudden goes from super wide to just
Yeah.
boom, narrow.
Exactly. So we talked briefly before this interview about it. You have a huge load of amps, cabinets, pedals, and microphones. And I'm sure you provide some photos. I will blend in right now, somewhere there. But do you want to give us a quick overview, maybe some special amps, some of your favorite amps or pedals or cabs or microphones that you own?
Yeah, for favorite amps right now, basically my Omega Grandifier is one of my favorites that I own. My Bogner Ecstasy, a Karsten's Grace, which is the Billy Corgan signature amp, but that amp can get super, super heavy. And then I really, really like, of course, the OG 5150s and dual rectifiers. And for cabinets, the old school, Mesa OS and traditional size cabinets work amazing. And then I really like this Karsten's 4x12 straight that I just recently got. That's got a Celestia Alnico creams in it, as well as V30s. And that cabinet sounds incredible when you blend both the speakers together.
Oh, okay. With all those amps and gear, do you still think you're missing a particular piece of gear?
Yes. even though I have 26 amps, I still feel like there's ones in the collection that I need to get, like a Soldano or like a Diesel.
So, if you could only buy one more thing, what would it be?
One more thing?
One more.
I think it would have to be a Diesel VH4. I think that if I had to buy just one amp and that would be the last one I bought, probably a VH4.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned the 5150. I think you have a block letter.
Yep, I have a block letter and then I have a 5152.
Okay.
As well as a 50-watt 5153.
Do you still have the original power tubes in the block letter? Because I heard the power tubes are the secret to the tone.
Yeah, I don't have the original Sletvanas in there anymore, but the tubes I have in right now, I have some TAD 6L6 red basses, and those sound really, really good in that amp.
Okay. So now I have two very similar questions, but they are different. So first of all, do you have any most used combinations? So basically favorite combinations that you tend to use very often?
Yeah, I'd say my Bogner Ecstasy into my Mesa OS cabinet, and then also my Omega Grandifier into my Mesa OS. That's pretty much like two amps and cabinet combinations I use quite frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And then for boost, I use Horizon Devices Precision Drive a lot. Then also the Dirty Tree from Pepper's Pedals.
Oh, yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Such a good freaking boost. It's one of my favorite for like that modern, like super tight overdrive sound going into an amp.
And do you have a personal favorite combination?
My personal favorite, I'd probably say my Grandifier through either my Omega cabinet or through my Angle cabinet. Those two cabinets sound really good with the Grandifier.
Do you have the Angle XXL or the standard or the vintage one?
I have the XXL Pro.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It has
the big
V30s, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so what's the weirdest or most nerdiest combination you ever used?
Nerdiest combination? There's been a lot of times where I've blended stuff. Like for example, like the Worm record, Colony Collapse. I did that with the V4 as a guitar amp with one of Joe's left-hand rafts in the front end of that, and then I blended it underneath with the 5150 with a left-hand path in the foot of it. So I basically took two nasty chainsaw tones and blended them together for the final guitar tone. And I had probably about like 5 or 6 mics going at the same time because I had two different cabinets with different speakers. So that was probably like the most like complex tone I've dialed in before for anybody. And go figure it's on a grind record.
Yeah. Sounds really weird, of course. um, okay, so what do you think about modelers like the Camper, the Helix, or the XFX?
They're great. Like I don't personally use any of them because I basically have a built-in like analog Kemper in my studio.
Yeah.
But the Kemper is great for guys who like don't have the space for a lot of amps, or they just want to get their hands on as many tones as possible on the go. So like for live use and whatnot, the Kemper is great. Same with the Axe effects,
Yeah, yeah.
especially since you can do MIDI patch changes and whatnot through a computer. Since a lot of bands are doing that nowadays. And then the Helix is awesome too because it integrates awesome with all of your amps,
Yeah.
and it just sounds good on its own as well. Like all those modelers are cool, but like I'd rather have pedals in front of me, like delays and reverbs, and tweak them myself than to go through a screen and do the parameters on that.
You need the real feel.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
like having the tactile feel in front of me.
Yeah. That's what she said. So you told me that you use lots of amp sims, especially for pre-production or for getting a feel for the sound.
Yeah.
But does it ever happen that a final sound is made with amp sims?
No. Every record I do ends up having real amps on it at the end of it.
Okay, and real amps and real cabinets, or sometimes real amps and impulse responses?
Almost always real cabinets as well.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, IRs, I haven't found any that really like can replace a cabinet for me. Like even in like a pinch, like if I need it just to record an amp direct and just use an IR, none of them have that feel that like a real cabinet have. For whatever reason, none of them are captured the way that I think they should be. So they never sound as good.
Okay, I think the problem with impulse responses is that it's just an impulse. So you're basically
Yeah.
getting a split second, and you don't get the pumping, or the speaker doesn't behave as it has constant sound through it. It's basically every time on its peak.
Yeah, exactly. So you're
Yeah.
not getting that warble that you would get naturally from a cabinet on the dynamics of like playing through it.
Yeah, yeah. However, the broken IRs are pretty great.
I'll have to check those out. I haven't checked those ones out yet.
I do everything with Bogren IRs. Currently I'm building my own room for miking up cabs because I want to
Excellent.
keep my neighbors and I want to stay in this house. And but so far I still have to use impulse responses. Okay, so we previously mentioned the left-hand breath, left-hand path. That's of course HM2 chainsaw sound. And
Yes.
how often do you use an HM2 style sound while reamping?
I actually use that sound a lot for bass. I
Mm.
don't use it a ton for guitars unless it's like a metallic hardcore band, grind band that requires it. But most of the time, for bass, I'll have an HM2 sound going with the clean bass.
Yeah.
Just fills out the mix so awesomely. But guitars, most of the time I don't get called for HM2 type tones, but when I do, I use a lot of Joe's pedals for that.
Okay, so what's your favorite pedal from him? Or what's your favorite HM2 pedal?
I'd say the Dismember one that I got from him, the very first Dismember run that he did. That left-hand Wrath Deluxe sounds awesome, but his V3 sounds really good too.
I'm still waiting for my V3s, yes.
Yeah, I A/B'd it against my V1, and they definitely sound different, but they both sound cool, so I have to keep both of them.
I can relate to this. So when you do use an HM2 pedal for guitars, what amps work well with the left-hand breath, for instance?
Old school Marshalls, like my JMP 2204s, work really well with that sound. The Ampeg V4 works really well with that sound. 5150s work really well with that sound too. If you just like either go on the green channel or the red channel and just put the gain at like 1 or 2, just so it's like slightly broken up or like just like a little distorted, that works really well with those pedals. And then Sun Beta Lead works really well with the HM2 sound as well.
The Sun is the very clean amp, right?
It can be very clean or it can be very, very blown out and like fuzzed out.
Ah, okay, yeah. I don't have any more questions gear related. Now I want to do some fun stuff. Some really fun stuff. You told me that you played some video games a while back. You're currently not gaming.
Yeah.
So what type of games did you play?
Mostly like action RPGs, and then turn-based RPGs, as well as like games like Metal Gear Solid. I was really into like the stealth genre for a little bit too.
Yeah, I played Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1 and I made it to the second or third boss and I didn't pick up any piece of gear I needed to beat him, and then I was stuck. I had no save point and okay. So what's your favorite RPG? And there is only one true answer to this.
Oh, I know it's gonna be wrong, but
Most
my
probably.
favorite RPG franchise is actually not Metal Gear, but Mass Effect, the first
Okay.
trilogy.
Okay. Yes, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Although I have played Mass Effect 1 and 2 and they were great. I do have Mass Effect 3. I think there was some controversy about the ending and they even patched it.
Yeah. The original ending of Mass Effect 3 was awful.
Oh, okay, so I should install the patch, you say.
Yeah, because like the updated ending is a lot better, but yeah, the original ending before everyone got pissed off was pretty bad. But
Oh,
like all the way up to the ending was incredible.
okay. I have to play it sometime. Um, that's while being, when was it first released, Mass Effect 1? 2006, 2007 or so?
I believe so. It was very like in the mid 2000s when it came
Yeah.
out.
I still consider this to be a modern game. Do you play or did you play any really old school games? For instance, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64?
Yeah. I played a lot of like the original Final Fantasy games on
Mm.
Super Nintendo, and those were awesome. Trying to remember, there was of course I played Earthbound on Super Nintendo when I was little, but I never owned that game. I always had to rent that game, and then it became super rare, and now it's super expensive to buy.
Yes, it's what did Joe say? Above 1K, I think,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
complete in box.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy for a cartridge.
It's totally ridiculous. My favorite RPG is actually Chrono Trigger. So,
Oh,
have you played
Chrono
it?
Trigger's amazing.
Okay, that's good. Correct answer. um,
Yeah, no, Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross are great games.
yeah. Still have to play Chrono Cross though.
Yeah, if
Never.
you like Chrono Trigger, you'll definitely like Chrono
Yeah,
Cross.
it never came out here in Europe, and so I just bought it recently, or well, 2 or 3 years back, and I still have to set up my modded PS2 to play NTSC games, and then you have
Yeah,
an LCD, big TV.
there's so much you got to go through just to play import games.
Yeah, true, with a good quality.
Yes.
Yeah. And so any modern systems? I mean, have you ever played PS4 or Nintendo Switch or Xbox One or so?
Yeah, I got both a PS4 and the Xbox One as well as a Switch, and I don't put a lot of time to those. Like I played a little bit of
Yeah.
the last Zelda game, Breath of the Wild. That was a pretty fun game. I only put like a couple hours into it,
So
but
you barely seen anything.
yeah, but like the few hours I put into it, I really enjoyed. But I know like there's so much more to that game than I've actually experienced.
Yeah. So I
And then of course I played all of like the Dark Souls games and
yeah.
Bloodborne and whatnot, and got pissed off while playing them.
That's why I've never touched those.
Yeah, no, those games bring out like an inner demon in everybody who plays those games.
Since you mentioned Breath of the Wild, I had this wow moment. First of all, I don't know if you're come to this point, but you have this one map that you're going through, and then the map expands. Have you come to this point?
I have not.
Okay. Do you mind if I spoil you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you have this map, and you think, "Whoa, that's big." It's basically uh, as big as any RPG you played, and then you see, okay, the map is exposed, and then this whole shrinks into this tiny piece, and you have this huge map to explore. And I sat there, whoa, okay, I will never ever gonna see everything of this game. And
That's pretty awesome though, especially if you think the map is already big and it gets like 100
yes,
times bigger.
yes. And a friend of mine, he said he wanted to see everything in Breath of the Wild, and he put about 100 or 200 hours into the game, and he's still in the place where you are.
Oh my
So
god.
it's totally ridiculous. So, but you're not only playing video games, or you not only have played video games. You told me that you're also into comics.
Yes.
DC or Marvel?
I'd say like Marvel for like they have a lot more awesome heroes and a lot more awesome storylines, but all the Batman storylines from the DC comics are all awesome.
Hmm.
So it's like super hard to go between the two, just because like all of like the Grant Morrison like Batman's, as well as like the Grant Morrison like Superman comics are super good.
Hmm. Okay. So Marvel was the correct answer.
Yes, like I'll pick Marvel over DC if I had to, but like Batman and all of, like the Batman villains are some of like the best written characters in any comic universe.
Yeah, yeah. I also think that Batman is more mature than most of the X-Men comics.
Yes.
Although the X-Men or Marvel X-Men, my most favorite comic series is X-Men. Therefore, I tend to talk about them. It's more like a soap opera, but
Yeah.
it's good. It tackles things like discrimination, homosexuality, and stuff like that. So it's really advanced, but the Batman stuff on the other side is more mature. Sure. I only read Dark Knight Returns from Frank Miller,
Yep.
and a couple years back, DC made a reboot, the New 52. I don't know if you've heard
Yep.
about it. Okay, then I started to read Batman and Detective Comics, but well, it wasn't for me. I think I'm too much into Marvel.
Yeah, which is okay
Yeah,
because all the Marvel stuff's sick. So
yeah, definitely. Are you into Image Comics?
what was that one?
Image Comics. They
Yeah,
have
Image
okay.
Comics makes some good stuff too, and so does Vertigo.
Yes, yes. Although Virgo is a DC imprint, I think. Um,
Yes,
yes, all the good stuff. Fables, Sweet Tooth. I don't know if you're into this stuff.
those I haven't really looked into that much.
Okay. If you still reading comics, you should check out the newest Image stuff. They put out lots of awesome sci-fi or dark fantasy stuff. It's so
Mhm.
good. I
Yeah, the
my
last cool like sci-fi comic I got into was Saga.
yes, it's now continued. Did you know?
No, I did not.
Yes, I think it's issue 55 or 52 or so, and
Mhm.
they're starting to publish the next single issues, but I haven't checked it out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, because I got all of like the hardcover versions of
Yeah,
like each 10 comics, and I
there
got
are
like
somewhere is it?
yeah, mine are somewhere over there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, Phil, thank you for this interview. I think uh, you told me some really interesting stuff. I will check out some of the amps you told me about. And still waiting for my left-hand breath V3 to check out and compare it to the V1. But I sure if you enjoy it, I will do. And well, yes, thanks for the interview. Anything you want to share with my audience?
It was just awesome talking to you finally because you know we were supposed to do this last week and I made a mistake and
I
we
haven't
weren't able
told
to do it.
anyone.
Yeah, but I'm glad we were able to do this and talk to each other. And of course, like if you ever want to send me anything to run through any amps, I can always do that for you as well.
Yes, of course. If I'm ever going to send any DI away, it will be to you.
Excellent. Yeah.
Phil is such a nice guy. It was so much fun to talk to him. It felt like we were some friends actually, but we literally spoke on this interview for the first time ever. We chatted a bit, but nothing really serious or deep talk. and he shared some nice information about his amps and how he handles tracking, reamping and stuff. Was really interesting, and it's good. He is also into RPGs and he likes Marvel, and a huge plus. So if you ever got a reamp job that I can't do, you might want to check out Sonic Assault Studios. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about Phil, or do you have any more questions? Maybe I'm doing a part 2 or so. Or what other persons do you want to see me interview? And please be realistic. So yeah, if you want to support this channel, check out the links in the description. And with that said, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. May the force be with you and have a nice day.